In my role as chair, I'm bringing together the Greenfield Human Rights Commission for its monthly meeting. And I'd like to go ahead then and call us to order. Let me go ahead and read the two chairperson statements into the record. One, if any person present is recording this meeting, you must notify the chairperson at this time. And Philippe, I believe you are recording this meeting, correct?
And Mr. Chairman, the
As I switch between
host
pages, yes.
is recording too.
I'm
Yes,
recording.
okay.
TCTV
Excellent.
is recording.
All right, thank you. Part two, no person shall address a meeting of a public body without the permission of the chair, and all persons shall, at the request of the chair, remain silent. No person shall disrupt the proceedings of the meeting of a public body. If, after clear warning from the chair, a person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting, and if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove the person from the meeting. Okay, so those are the two chairperson statements. Before we go any further, I would like our newest member of the Greenfield Human Rights Commission, Mackenzie Siraj, to introduce herself to all of us gathered. And so we do this typically when we have a new member. Mackenzie, we welcome you. And we would want to hear any opening statement you'd like to share with us about yourself and what brings you to the role of Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission.
Please excuse the background noises. I couldn't find a quieter spot at the moment. But yes, I'm Mackenzie Siraj, and I go to school at Boston University. I plan on double majoring in international relations with a focus on international systems, which primarily works with UN and human rights, kind of like laws and treaties, but also a regional focus in Latin America. I also plan on double majoring in Holocaust, genocide, and human rights studies. So basically the full purpose of me going to Boston University is to fulfill that special interest in Holocaust, genocide, and human rights studies. Throughout the year that I have been at BU, I have worked closely with the Elie Wiesel Center, which was the center that was created by Elie Wiesel, who became a professor here at BU. And so basically the number one reason why I joined the Human Rights Commission is because I think people tend to have a disconnect between what human rights means to us today. A lot of times people conflate human rights with like egregious violations that are like happening across the seas. But people, I think people, and I do as well, fail to understand that living with dignity should also be a right. So access to housing and access to public education should be a forefront of policies in Greenfield. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mackenzie. And again, welcome. We're glad you're joining us at this time, and congratulations on being sworn in and joining us for your first meeting. Normally, the roll call of commissioners would be done by the clerk. However, I do not see Wid with us. Unless you are, I believe maybe Wid just joined us. Wid, if you're there, if you could unmute yourself. Possibly. I saw your initial just come up. And if you're unable to do this, I will do the roll call of commissioners.
I'm here.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Wid. And now we are assured of a quorum. So Wid, if you wouldn't mind just calling out members' names, and members, if you're present, please say present, so we know that we have
Yeah.
a quorum.
So we know that we have.
So Whit, if you're prepared to call out our commissioners.
Is Daniel here?
I'm present, yes.
Whit is here. Pierre is here. Philippe is here.
Presente.
Empress.
Here.
And Irene
Present.
and Mackenzie.
Present.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late. I was having technical difficulties as usual. And I
Okay.
see that Jesus is also here as a guest. And Aaron is here from the mayor's office.
I also see, I recognize a hand from Wendy Goodman.
Yeah, I just want to say that I am officially still on the commission because I have not yet submitted a statement.
Great. I'm glad to have you with us, Wendy. We're getting some feedback, so I'm wondering if maybe, I'm not sure where that's coming from. There, it's gone now. So Wendy, glad you're with us. You are still, I guess, officially a commissioner until your letter is signed and sent in, which it has not done yet. But so for the moment, anyway, you are a 7th commissioner for this evening's meeting.
And just to note, I do plan to submit that.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So we will go ahead. For the moment, we have 7 commissioners with us this evening. So that does give us a quorum. There are several guests and visitors present. I just want to acknowledge that we appreciate your presence, and you are welcome by the show of a hand. If you don't have a photo, we're not seeing you visually live, you may speak if you put a hand up and I can recognize you. We work a little less formally than other commissions and committees in town and the city council. So we will engage, if appropriate, in back and forth conversation as appropriate and necessary. I guess, let me ask then, this is item number 6 on the agenda. Are there any announcements that commissioners wish to share at this time? Information sharing. Is there any announcement any commissioner would like to share? Any news?
Recording in progress.
Okay, then we will move on. The next item is approval now of the minutes of our September 12th meeting, which was 1 month ago. I believe everyone has been sent those minutes that our clerk, Wid Perry, created. Is there any discussion, comments, feedback, emendations to the minutes as they were posted in draft form? This is specifically to the commissioners.
No objections.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak?
I guess, can I just go back to announcements when you're done with this for a second? Thank you.
Sure. Okay, let's finish this and we'll go back to announcements. Thanks, Wendy. So hearing no suggestions or emendations, let me entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Is there any commissioner who would like to approve it?
Motion.
Thank you, Philippe. Anyone to second?
I second.
Thank you, Wid. Okay. Minutes have been motioned and all in favor. Aye, and say aye.
Aye.
Philippe? Wid?
I would.
Irene, is that it? Empress?
Empress. Aye.
Okay. I will approve also. Wendy, you still have the opportunity to approve if you wish or not.
I'll abstain.
Okay. Did I miss anyone? No. Okay, so the minutes are approved. And let me go back then to the previous item. And Wendy, do you have an announcement to share?
Yeah, thank you. I guess I just want to put out that there are numerous immigrants that are coming to Springfield. Haitians are among them. And if you had clothing or dollars to drop off, I believe that the temple is gathering that. I'm going down regularly and can be the transport, but I think it's important to just note that we have neighbors where there are hundreds of people coming into Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank
And
you.
just point of information, I believe you mean Temple Israel.
Thank you.
Is that correct? Wendy?
I think I heard Temple.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's correct. And I believe that they're receiving them there. I know that I've received some stuff here. So, but even to keep in the awareness, it's Jewish Family Services and Catholic Relief Services are both hosting many, many immigrants. Many of them are Haitian families that have arrived in the last month or two, have nothing, and the weather is changing. And they have not ever experienced what they will be experiencing. So just, yeah. So Temple Israel would be the contact in Greenfield probably, or you could reach out to me and I'm happy to give more information. Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Daniel, you're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. Aaron, let me turn it to you, Director of Communications for the City of Greenfield. Do you have any updates to share with us from the Mayor's office?
I have a few. First of all, welcome to Commissioner Siraj. It's good to have you aboard. And dovetailing off of what Commissioner Goodman said, the cold weather months are indeed coming. October is National Energy Awareness Month, and with energy prices expected to significantly increase this winter, the city, specifically the Energy and Sustainability Department, has started some outreach to help raise awareness where people can go if they need assistance. Natural gas expected to be 28% higher than last winter, according to the federal government. Heating oil, 27% higher. And certainly if people need assistance, there's the Community Action Program, there's Mass Save to get your house buttoned up, and there are more incentives coming from the Inflation Reduction Act. We've launched another round of social media promotions to help fill vacancies on the Human Rights Commission. Certainly, if you know anyone who may be interested, please have them reach out to the mayor's office. And work continues behind the scenes for the new city website. We're hoping to launch sometime this fall. We're currently in the process of reviewing and refining each page of content from the current site to the new site. And again, we hope to launch in the coming weeks and or months.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Much appreciated. The next piece is mostly follow-ups from our meeting on September 12th that were not completed. And I put on the agenda the names of the commissioners who were in process on those particular items. So item 9 has approximately 8 different parts to it. And we will go through those one at a time in the order listed. And then we'll proceed from there. The first item has to do with a panel on housing that we had discussed and wanted to have some follow-up. And I believe members Empress Bennu and Irene Woods were going to report on whether there's been an update or any progress moving forward on that, whether there's a panel forthcoming or any other citywide events. So I would ask either Empress or Irene to speak to that piece, if there's anything to share.
Good evening. I did follow up after last meeting, like I said we would. And basically, I know the big discussion was that as far as people being put out on the streets from the shelter program, and I got word that that even though ServiceNet does not have that contract with the Wells Street shelter anymore, that there is another contractor that's going to take it out. MJ said that that article was actually supposed to be released like a month ago, but it's going to be released soon, and the information will be in the newspaper. So therefore, as far as what was being said that people are going to be put out in the street, that that information is not accurate. So there is something in place that people will still have shelter available for the winter months.
Thank you, Empress. Any discussion or comments, both from commissioners and anyone so gathered? Whit, I see your hand. Yeah. Whit?
I just want to mention, I don't think it's announced yet, but the living room at 140 High Street, which is the CSO program, is going to be closing. Living room was open generally from 9 to 3, 9 to 5, to allow people to come in, take a shower, rest, hang out for a while. But there's another program in there now, and there's just too many difficulties trying to run 2 programs in the same house. So the living room is going to be closing, and that's going to be a resource that's going to be a loss for the day type of people looking for a place to hang out. So that's going to be happening in the next couple of months.
Okay. Thank you. Whit, Irene?
Yeah, I think I was the person that brought up the discussion on the Wells Street shelter initially, and I wasn't saying that people would be put out on the street, but I guess it's not still clear in my mind who's running the program and how it's going to be run. Like, you know, when does it open and when will people be welcomed in? I guess I just don't know that yet, and maybe that'll just come to fruition. But you know, I'm happy to hear somebody's taking it over. I guess I'm not even clear who's taking it over, but so I guess time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, Empress, do you have any further details or information about that? I know the date's not clear.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. So basically, as far as speaking to MJ, as far as who the new contractor is, that information is not going to be released yet because, like I said, there was supposed to be an article already put out, and she did say that it was delayed, but she said there should be something coming out soon that's going to actually inform the community over who the new contractor is for that shelter. But she did say is that there's gonna be better opportunity for individuals staying there and also added beds.
Thank you. I see some hands. So Aaron, I'll recognize you first and then Wendy.
So the RFP for homeless services from the state went out on July 1st. ServiceNet will remain the contractor through the winter into next spring, if that's helpful.
Okay, that is helpful information. Thank you. Wendy?
Thank you, Daniel. And I think this is basically for Aaron. I guess I wonder, or maybe for Empress and Irene too, to explore how we might be able to use the community senior center in urgency and how that can be set up and prepared so that, you know, we have no idea what weather is doing anymore, and we have no idea what population it is we have, and we've got a beautiful warm building that the city owns. So I guess I just wonder what y'all can be doing with that. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, this goes back to, here's some feedback. Empress, I'm sorry, I'll let you speak first. Go ahead.
I have a question for Aaron. Aaron, so is this something new that came out as far as ServiceNet got the contract? Because like I said, I just spoke with MJ, and I know it was that another contractor was taking it over. But is it something that actually came through?
No, this is old information. ServiceNet is not continuing after the spring. They decided not to bid on the new contract, but their current contract remains in place through the winter and into the spring. Who the new contractor will be, we don't know yet.
So this is just the completion of their current contract, basically. So this discussion and the forthcoming news may obviate against the idea that we had from our September meeting, where there was discussion within the commission about having a public panel regarding housing and affordability of housing and so on, and homelessness. So I just want to get clear on whether or not the commission at this point wants to undertake any sort of a public event focusing on the issues of housing and affordability and homelessness, or if we're going to wait, if we're choosing to wait as a commission for this announcement to come forward and go from there. So I would ask if there's any discussion on this from the commissioners. Let's decide if we want to move forward with any kind of public event or put it off, at least for the time being. Would any commissioner like to speak to that?
I propose to wait until an announcement is made.
Okay. Thank you, Empress. Any other thoughts? Wendy, hand up. Yep. Please.
I guess you're all going to miss me when I'm gone, huh? Because I always have comments. I guess, Empress, I appreciate that. And I also think that there's so much work going on in town that just my take on it, and you can do whatever you want in the future, would be that the Human Rights Commission could be a coordinating body in support of the people that are doing and have been doing work with this for the last 2 or 3 years, and reach out to them to see how the HRC could facilitate a forum if that feels to them that would move things forward. But I think it's very important to be in partnership with the people and the citizens in this community, both employees and just regular citizens that have been working on this issue for years. Thank you.
So I'd like to follow up Wendy's comment. And again, as people know, after tonight, we will have 6 commissioners out of a total number of 9. I will be bringing a question about that to new business a little bit later. But for the moment, our charter calls for 9 commissioners. And, you know, we have in the past undertaken to have subcommittees which have specific responsibilities around particular issues and focused topics. And this seems to be one that if we want to go forward with anything going ahead, I'd like to know if there's anyone, and last month it was Irene and Empress, at least to think about going forward. But I want to ask if there's anyone who is still interested in this topic as something that they would like to focus on as we move through the year and see what comes of a forthcoming announcement. Does any commissioner have this as something they'd like to add to their portfolio? Wendy, is your hand up again?
It is, thank you.
Okay.
Whatever you all decide, I think it's really important. We talked about this in September, and Philip, I know that you had some concerns, but the Human Rights Commission was the only commission in this town, in this city, that did subcommittees. And once you formalize a subcommittee, you are liable to follow all of the open meeting law criteria. And it constrains what doesn't need to be constrained. It's not about hiding anything. It's about being able to talk to somebody without worrying that, oh my God, we're a quorum and we've just violated the bylaws. So I really encourage you, whatever you undertake, if you undertake housing or anything else, that you do not follow what we did. And actually, I think I'm the guilty one. I said, well, let's make a subcommittee, without understanding that that was an actual kind of legal term. See, this is why I don't have my camera on, folks. My apologies, it's my computer. But I really strongly think that, you know, this can be an ongoing conversation. But if you label it a subcommittee, it becomes a whole other entity that really constrains activity and exploration. That's my comment. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, yes, and we have discussed what Wendy just said in previous meetings. And so we can move however we want on this. I guess my question more generically is, are there any commissioners who have this as something that they are personally interested in and would like to consider pursuing in whatever format with the passage of time, committee or not, subcommittee or not? So Irene, I think I saw a hand, and Philippe, I think I saw a hand. Is that correct?
Could be. I don't see a reason for a subcommittee, but I don't even know what the follow-up would be. It sounds like the town has a plan, and that was the only question was there a plan, and was somebody keeping the shelter open? So that answered my question.
All right. Philippe, do you have any thought to follow up on Irene's?
I've got a couple of things that I'm working on just to get my head around and to see where I'm going to go forward with those. And as soon as I do, probably by next month's meeting, I would be interested in entertaining taking on or belonging to a group that has something to do with homelessness. I think what's going on in the country right now with prices of basic necessity prices going up, so that the upper middle class or the rich are the only ones who can afford all that stuff. And it's a criminal situation. And no matter what towns and regional governments do about it is great, absolutely great, because we're the last. We're absolutely the last. We're the goalkeepers. You get by us, someone's homeless, they freeze to death, or other things, other dangers happen to them. So someone's got to say something to these oil companies, to these big corporations that are just raking it in off of COVID, to cut it out and start joining the rest of us and the rest of the human race who wants to live, eat, have shelter, have a job and a purpose in life, and keep ourselves healthy and warm and safe. I'm pissed. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Well, that's a lot, and I appreciate that. And okay, Mackenzie, if you'd like to speak, please go ahead.
Yes, I think I would be interested in either be in a subcommittee or just in further meetings to continue the conversation about housing and unhoused people. But I'd like to consider that whether or not we do a panel that provides resources for people or anything like that, I think something that would be important for the topic of homelessness and housing security is the concept of allowing for legal advocacy, because a lot of times the misinformation or misunderstanding of legal rights that people have can be construed by landlords against tenants, and this is definitely seen with like rising up rent costs and evictions and whatnot. So I think like if we do a panel or either collaborating with other organizations, I think the topic of providing information about what legal rights people have, either by having people from the courthouse speak about how those laws work. I think that would be very important for both people who are struggling in housing security and on the verge of homelessness and those who are currently unhoused.
Thank you, Mackenzie. So what I'm going to suggest based on the feedback so far is that we keep this item at the forefront of our agendas and use it each month to touch base to see if there are announcements, if we are aware as a commission or individuals of things going on, whether or not they're formally announced, but that this does not disappear as an agenda item at all in the coming year from the Greenfield Human Rights Commission. So we'll see where it formulates and how as an aspect of our work, but I don't want to lose connection with what's going on in Greenfield. Philippe, is that a hand? Please.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is a hand. I think that's a wonderful idea, Mackenzie, and to give people more and more resources is crucial. And I think that it's going to go beyond a forum or a public forum because, A, we've got to make sure we can get those people who are in crisis or near danger to come to a meeting like that to get that information for them. And since that's not the most likely case, it might be a good idea to get the information from the panel, or to do something like you said, with ServiceNet or another group that is helping homeless people, who can identify the people who need to hear that information. So it would be for the homeless as well as the professionals that help them. And I will do what I can to pack a room, help you pack a room if that's the case. Thank you.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Empress, go ahead, please.
Yes, I actually agree with Felipe. I believe that there needs to be a time for action, and sitting on a panel isn't really helping anybody. That if we do something, we need to be more active. We need to be more on the front line. And just like Felipe said, as far as having people come to these discussions, maybe we need to bring the discussion to them. You know, because for years, people has been talking. When are we going to start talking and start doing something?
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Empress. I think this is about taking action, as you suggested, and we can talk till we're blue in the face, and that doesn't change a thing. So I would encourage all of us, both commissioners and others gathered here tonight. I see 16 boxes here. I wish there were hundreds, but at any rate, I think we all have to really hone in on this and figure out what can be done as opposed to what can be said. So I will plan to make sure that this is on the agenda, and that anyone who wants to speak to action steps has space to do so. Any other comments on this before we move ahead? Wendy, I see a hand from you.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm struggling because your initial question out was, who's interested in pursuing this? And then there was really no response. And then we had a discussion where people really wanted to do something. So I guess I wonder if there can be some people taking on some exploration between now and your next meeting to be able to come back, whether, you know, with more information about what is the current housing situation, so that you can sign up and say, yeah, let's work on something. That's my suggestion.
I actually don't agree with what you just said. I saw 3 hands
Okay.
go up. I saw Philippe, I saw Irene, and I saw Mackenzie put hands up indicating that they had an interest. It's just not 100% clear at this moment what to formulate. But I saw 3 of 6 commissioners put hands up, and I know that.
Okay, then thank you. Then I'm wrong. I didn't see that. I thought that it kind of went out into the ethers that nobody was signing up, and people were saying, yeah, we need to do something, but that wasn't cohesive in terms of exploring something through the next meeting. So my apologies. You won't have to put up with me again.
Okay. Then we'll
I'm
move ahead.
joking. I'm joking. I'm not serious on that. I'm joking.
Either way, we're going to move
Thank
ahead.
goodness.
So I'd like to move on then to the part B, which is a discussion that
What
we
about the
had.
rest of us who had hands up to comment on that?
I don't see any hands.
No, but I had mine up to comment on.
On
And
Wendy's
then
comment?
Wendy was first, and now I'm second.
Oh, well, go ahead, please.
Okay,
I'm
thank
sorry. I
you.
didn't see your hand.
Wendy, please, anytime you feel a need to remind us of doing that, please do so. Life is complicated. Life is very busy. And I'm going through some changes in terms of the things that I need in life. And it's taking time. But I would love to, I want to wait till next month before I involve myself in that issue, in that or subcommittee. I've had very little bit of time lately, and there are some things that I haven't been able to do. But you know, the one thing that I hope comes out of this, and one thing that we did do, I don't know how part of a protocol this could be, but me and Greg, who was the vice, when I was the chair and he was the vice chair, we would just come out on Saturday afternoons and walk up and down Main Street and see who was homeless or whatever, and just talk to them and see if they could get help, and maybe come back the next weekend with an answer for them or something like that. But there's no better way to expose people than on the street level. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
I'm sorry if I missed you on that, Philippe.
That's
I
quite
just
all
think
right. You're the chairman. You're not the supreme being.
Philippe, your hand doesn't show up when you put your hand up.
Did it now?
I do see Whit's hand, so I'm going to.
Oh, there it is.
Whit.
Okay.
It just doesn't fit with the color.
There already is an agency who does that work.
Well, it just doesn't fit with the colored motif here.
The Elliott Homeless Agency is out of Northampton. They have a Greenfield satellite office, and they do that work. They're out there on the streets doing that work. There's 2 case managers who do that all the time. I will
And who is that?
For the who's that? Elliott Homeless. Elliott Homeless is an agency in Northampton. They have an office in Greenfield with 2 case managers who do that type of work. They're out there every day. Talking to the homeless people and getting referrals and trying to get them places.
Fantastic.
It's good to know. Sharing this information is helpful. It's not that we shouldn't worry about redundancy of efforts, because that's also helpful. People can be spoken to more than once, or we all have a role to play in all of this. Any further comments then before we move on to the next piece? I hope that next month we'll be able to maybe formulate some idea of an action plan, or someone has something to share, but let's all keep our eyes on that going forward. And hopefully the announcement that Empress spoke about will come to fruition before our meeting on November 14th. I certainly hope so. The next item was a follow-up on environmental justice and the nature gap. And again, Philippe, I don't know if you had any discussion with Wendy, as had been planned or scheduled, but I thought I'd call on you to see where that's at, if it's anywhere.
Thank you. It is nowhere right now because I have not had a chance to follow up, but I would definitely like to have a conversation with Wendy. And then I think what needs to happen also is informational forums are great, and we should keep doing those. But what I'd also like to do is touch bases with the mayor's office or the planning board, the planning office, to see. There were many things that were mentioned during the 2012, what was that? The beautification of Greenfield project. And a lot of those had to do with access to natural places. And I want to see where that is and what the plans for the future are, to see how much money goes in and how much money is needed so that they can actually do something to make, do something with construction or planning or redevelopment to make it easier for people to access natural places. Also, there are many housing developments that are not properly staffed with trees and things like that. And so I'd like to look into that as well. And that's basically where it stands. And I will get in touch with Wendy and possibly MJ to get a little bit more insight on what has been done and why we're doing this and what we hope to accomplish.
Philippe, that's great. I would also suggest maybe you make contact with Susan Wargaftik and Greenfield.
Yes, Green. Yes, yep, very familiar with
one
them.
Of our key organizations that's been working for years on this particular topic. Wendy, I see your hand again, please.
Yeah, thank you. So Philippe did get in touch with me, and rather than, because I so abhor typing and writing all of this stuff up, I figured I would just talk about it tonight. Philippe, I absolutely agree with you. The next steps where the forums are is really, we were coming back. There were 3 main things that showed up that people complained about, or that really rose to the top. One was river access, one was transportation access, and one was access to public boards of influence in our town governance. So those were going to be the next 3 issues that we looked at, and that we gathered people together to look at what do folks want to do.
Great.
I think that your orientation and what you're looking at doing is awesome and exactly on track. So I was going to email you back and say, I'm sorry. I can't stand how much we're emailing. I just want to talk to people.
You know what? That's wonderful, because people don't talk to people enough. And don't
Well,
take the
thank you.
patience for that.
So I'm sorry if I was short, but that's where we are. I think that, and what we were going to do, where we are a bit remiss, and this is on me, was that we were going to get back to the fall to have different conversations. And MJ Adams should absolutely be involved. And I think she would want to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to add just one more thing, Daniel.
Yep, please.
I have a way of doing this. I can do it on foot. I can walk from my home to Highland Park and build little wooden structures and sweep paths and feed animals nuts and seeds and really be there in nature and really absorb that connection. That connection is where human beings are supposed to be ultimately, but we've sacrificed a lot of that to participate in our society of industrial technology. So we need to take time to do something like that once a week, once every 2 weeks. And I think that's also a very valuable component is the will. You can make the tools to take people to the places you think they should be, but they have to have the motivation themselves, and they have to know how much fun it is and how wholesome it is and how much it actually improves your health, your physical and mental health. It's something that would help a lot of people, especially people who are denied that access or just don't really have the confidence to say, hey, I belong there, I should go there. I do. I have the confidence to say, wherever there's woods, I belong there because I'm a human being. And this is my planet, you know? And so getting people to have that kind of perspective and to have a little bit more prioritizing to go out and just be out there. Once they're hooked, they'll never stop. And
Thank you.
sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
Personally, I appreciate your passion and support it, Philippe. And I'll look forward to hopefully you and Wendy having a conversation, you know, between now and our next meeting.
It'll
And
be my
maybe-
pleasure.
Yep, and then maybe you can help us in formulating whatever's to come from that, to keep that on our agenda and to keep us invested in issues around environmental justice and the nature gap. I'll
Thank
turn
you.
to you again, if I may, Philippe, with information regarding the film premiere of the movie Till, which is to take place at the Greenfield Garden Cinema on October 28th, less than 2 weeks away. And I know you're going to be having a conversation with Isaac Mass, who owns the GCC, and wanted us to be involved in some way. And I'm not sure the nature of those discussions, but if you can inform us to where that's at, so we can move forward on that.
It's a big surprise, Daniel. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be Thursday, October 27th at 4:30 p.m.
27th, okay.
Yeah, and that's I believe that's the first showing, and I'll confirm that as well. But basically, we've been invited to do whatever we want, and I think right now one of the things that we could focus on there is a table in the lobby with our banner and with some literature that we print up, and just get to know people, put our face out in public as people come in to see this awesome movie about this very, very tragic historical event. And it would be great for us to even perhaps extend the conversation with very interested individuals with becoming commissioners, since that seems to be what we could certainly use a pool of, if not enough, more than enough. So I think that that's the best thing for us to do at the theater. And so Thursday at 4:30, October 27th, I would love to see a lot of commissioners there, and would love you guys to think ahead of time as what you can do, and myself included, to get the time to do that.
Thank you. It's good to know a date and a time, and I like your ideas. I think it's a place where we can be seen and we can be active in person. Certainly, the topic is timely, and you know, I know that if I recall correctly from last month, I believe, Empress, you were going to write an article of some sort for the Greenfield Recorder. Is that correct?
Yes, but there was never any, I know we said we was gonna discuss it at a meeting that we had scheduled earlier this month, but we didn't have a forum. So this is where we are
Right.
So that's what happened.
So I personally will be out of town. I'm on a national book tour beginning next Monday. I'll be gone for 2 weeks. So I will not be available in person or in any other way, unfortunately. But I'm hoping, as Philippe had said, that there may be some other people, commissioners, who would be willing to attend that opening and maybe staff a table with a banner and have conversations. I don't know if it's possible to have a post-film discussion about the issues that are brought up. I don't know if that was something that you discussed with Isaac, but I think that the film is going to be highly affecting and emotional, and it might be good to have someone who might be willing to facilitate after the film a discussion about the points made in the film.
That'd be fantastic.
It just needs a point person, basically, both to coordinate a table and information of whatever sort, and maybe someone to ask people to stay afterwards if they'd like to discuss the themes in the film. And so I guess this is the time, because we're talking, 11 days from now is when the film will open. So it would be good if there are people who can help facilitate either part, the table and literature, a post-film discussion.
Yeah, I think that's...
Could be a commissioner, could be anyone.
I think that I would definitely like to work on that. I don't know who would be the person to facilitate the discussion, though I am a good public speaker. And I would love to get points or questions from the rest of the commission, or how we can engage the discussion or create the discussion. Because we'll have to come on and say something, make a statement, and then perhaps ask people questions, and then go around the room.
So I don't know if you're saying that you would be interested to be
I am interested, yes.
Interested, okay.
And but I won't do it unless Empress comes along. I'm just kidding.
Well, nothing like a little bit of pressure there in the moment.
Okay, so we can discuss it through email.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Just
won't
tell me what
include
you
Wendy.
want. Just tell me what you want. I always support you, so just tell me what you want.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it would be wonderful for you to meet people there, and anybody else on this commission who's interested. We should all have a big group, and when we're there, giving people literature on the way out and way in. That means we can go and watch the movie.
Irene, thank you.
Yeah,
Irene?
I'm happy to do a table or help with literature, but I'm not sure there can be more discussion and emails. Is that allowed? The commissions I've sat on, we couldn't really have discussions through emails. So
well, if there's less than a quorum, my understanding is people can have phone discussions or email discussions if it's less than a quorum, because it's not a subcommittee. It's just that it would be better if people want to do something, as Wendy had pointed out earlier, informally, outside of the rigors and the format of abusing open meeting law or anything like that. So I guess I'm just asking if there's a couple of people, they can certainly have a phone call to discuss, what literature you want to bring on, or how you might want to facilitate a post-film discussion. This can be done very informally, and it doesn't have to take more than 2 or 3 people at most. I mean, I've heard Philippe say that he's interested. I hear Empress saying that she's interested. Irene, if you want to take on a table and figuring out what would be appropriate handouts. We have a budget. We can reimburse if you want to make copies of things, save a receipt.
Who has the handouts now for the commission?
Well, handouts as far as what, this film?
No, are you saying hand out information regarding the Human Rights Commission?
No. We could certainly print some things up, about our mission and our vision. That's, we have that on the website.
And what's in the town charter too.
and it's also in the town charter. I was thinking if there's anything specifically relating to the film and maybe the work of the commission. I mean, this would be something that someone would have to generate. There's nothing there, but we certainly have, you know, a simple one-page document about our charter and our mission and our vision. We can get that printed up and have available. I'm not sure if there's any other.
I would
standard
like to see if there is any literary analysis of that event.
Of the film you're talking
Some
about.
written analysis, not only of the film, but of Emmett Till and the practice of lynching in the South at that time.
Can I ask then, Philippe, just as far as an action item, if you would be willing to take that on and look and
Yes,
see?
I would.
And if you do come up with something, please make some copies and we will reimburse you. I don't think
That'd be fantastic.
That'd be great. Any other thoughts on this? Because I think some things are coming together. I don't know if they're concretized, but we have the idea of a table with the banner. Right now, I think the banner sits with Aaron in the mayor's office in City Hall, and it would just have to be borrowed. So someone would have to look into that so that we can have it there at the film and returned as well. And you know, anyone who's there, is there a point person who's willing to facilitate a post-film discussion? Philippe, okay, great.
Being a filmmaker myself.
All right, great. And of course, we encourage everyone who can to attend the opening of the film. I'm very sorry that I cannot be there. Any other discussion on this? Are we clear going forward?
Daniel, yes. I might have my hand raised for a while.
All right.
But no problem. But just
Oh,
to
it's
clarify,
hard to
so
see
that
because it's, yeah.
yeah, because of the yellow. But just to clarify, that the email wasn't really going to violate any meeting laws. Basically, I managed a pop-up shop next door, so it's basically trying to coordinate times with my schedule because my schedule is really busy. And second of all, just as far as seeing exactly as far as the time frame, as far as the My Turn article. So that was the purpose of the email. It wasn't really to discuss anything more than that. That's why I was going to get in contact with Felipe and myself through the email. So it had nothing to do with violating meeting laws or anything. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Is there a chance, Empress, that you will try to get a My Turn in before the 28th or 27th, or is that not something you can do because of your schedule?
Well, that's why I want to see as far as what Isaac was looking for, because I know Felipe said, because we was going to discuss it at the meeting that was scheduled prior to this one, but we didn't have a meeting. And I know Felipe said he was going to speak to Isaac and basically bring it to the meeting as far as, you know, what's the time frame? Is it a week before the movie or exactly? So you know, it's just like, you know, what are we looking at for the article?
Philippe, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that I would love it if you wrote that, and if it got out a week or a couple of days before the 27th would be fine. I think it's really important to let people know about the effects, the most negative effects, as well as the not so the milder effects of racism, and perhaps analyzing. Giving a little bit of historical information, a sentence or two about Emmett Till, why he went to visit his aunt, I think it was, and you know, what was going on in America at the time politically, and then tying that into, like, at the end of the My Turn, it would be great if, like, hey, we're going to discuss this at this movie, after the movie, and that would be a really visible place to mention that discussion. So the historical analysis, why this threatens everybody, and then we're going to talk about this. If you come to the movie, it's only an hour and a half. Oh, it's 130 minutes. That's 2 hours and 10 minutes. That's prime for me. I love movies that long. And if anybody wants to stick around and talk about it, let's do so. And also with the sense of, we would like to discuss this with the community to see if there's something that we could do as an exercise with the entire community, something that could involve you.
So,
Okay, Wid, and then Wid, and then Irene, please. Wid, please.
I was going to mention that the summit does have a social media page, so we could use that to help promote the cause as well. Work with IT to promote it once we get the agenda set.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and Irene?
I just wanted to close the circle a little bit and find out if Felipe, will you be contacting me, or Empress? Do we have a little email thing happening then, or?
I'm going to just give you guys details, times and dates and things that, and then I would also like a response on what you would like to do at this event.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I'm saying that I'm going to speak, I'm saying that I'm going to do that, but that's not written in stone. I want to give everybody a chance to do what they can.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just checking because we're 9 days out. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I only do things at the last minute sometimes, and that's not good.
Well, I'm glad we had this meeting, and even if the October 3rd meeting was canceled, we can still make these good things happen. So I want to just thank everyone for stepping up in the ways that you will and can, and helping to galvanize our community. It's a good opportunity for all of us. So thank you. Let's move ahead. I noticed that it's already a couple minutes after 7. The next item had to do with the concerns we raised regarding the Lunt property cleanup. And no one was assigned to focus on this in any particular way, but we're all aware that this is an ongoing concern in the city for all residents, but particularly for those who live contiguous to the area where the cleanup has been or is supposed to take place. So I don't know if there's any follow-ups, any new news, information that needs to be shared here about what's happening with the Lunt property cleanup, and all of the information. Some of it has been in the newspaper, although none recently, I don't believe. But is there anyone who has information, updates that you can share with us about what's happening around that particular issue? And this would include anyone who is not on the commission. I see 8 or 9 other names who are listening in. This is a community conversation. It's a community-wide issue. And we haven't decided exactly yet how, whether, if, and when the Human Rights Commission is going to take any kind of action on the issue, but we're all aware that there is a concern and that there are problems. So again, I want to invite voices to share out what they know and what we're thinking, what you're thinking.
Daniel?
Yes, Ginny?
Sorry, I don't have my hand up, but I will speak to this. We, as a council, we put in a request for a new LSP because there were multiple, let me just, a volume thing to turn down a minute. Multiple deficiencies in the report. And thus far, we haven't had a satisfactory response from the LSP, who really is working for the developer. But it is not, the contamination is not contained. The neighbors have done some picketing, some informational, given some information to neighbors and to employees. I think there were employees there who weren't feeling well, and that's of concern. And I can't give you all of the technical information. I wasn't really prepared to do that. I was just listening tonight. I tuned in late, but that's a little update for what it's worth. We're not happy with how it's, many of us are not happy with how it's going, and we've asked for a new LSP, and that's not happening. A licensed site professional who really just doesn't have a conflict of interest. So that's my entire report.
Well, thank you, Jenny, for sharing that. I mean, I think many of us are trying to get more information, such as you shared, and where that's going and where it's heading. And there seems to be a paucity of updates at this point. But this also does speak to another aspect of environmental injustice, I suppose, in terms of the health issues and the mental health issues and the stress issues that it brings out, particularly for those who abut that area, but also, more generally. And, I hope we can all stay tuned. And I don't know that we have an action plan. I don't know if the city council is weighing in on that anymore specifically, but it is an ongoing concern. And I want to encourage people to stay on top of it and to be responsive and proactive, whether it's, letters into the newspaper or my turns or other opportunities to engage in information sharing, Saturday mornings on the Common, whatever. But it's something that we should not shut down just because information isn't forthcoming. So again, is there anyone else who would like to speak to this in any way or has any other questions? Philippe?
The situation of toxicity is a very serious health problem, and I really feel for the people who are suffering. I would like to know where this stands, if it's been completed or not, why it's not completed. I see a lot of people in city council meetings offering criticism of the project and of the results of the project. And so for them, at least, because they seem to be the people who are in proximity of this toxicity, that we should find out, if we can, where the process is, what it is that went wrong, how much really needs to be done, and is it really going to be safe for people? And then in that sense, we can, create a situation where the general public has some idea of what's being done and has a concrete step-by-step program and some expectations that they might have. But we just don't know. It seems to be something that a lot of people are concerned about, and I think that they are getting very concerned and very emotional about it because there's a lot of information that they're not getting.
Thank you.
And that's just my quick analysis.
I'd like to recognize Susan, who's got a hand up to speak on this. Susan?
If part of the issue is that the LSP, the licensed inspector that's supposed to be working on this project, is being paid by the renter, not by the city. The renter wants to buy the property. He has some very specific interests that he has. He has told us very directly that he will not do anything that is not directed that he is not directed by the state to do. So the question is, we asked for more testing. We didn't get that. We've asked for a number of things that we have not gotten. We asked the mayor if we could have an independent person who would do testing that we could trust. So this is where we are on this, is that we don't have information that we feel we can trust. And if you don't have information you feel you can trust, then you can't act on it. And so those are our major concerns. And we are, as the Lunt Neighborhood Action Group is actually applying for a state grant to be able to get that kind of information, but if we get that funding, we will not have it until April. So we're going through this whole next 6-month period without getting that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Susan, I'm wondering, given that you are knowledgeable and deeply involved in this, are there other ways to keep the pressure on so that we can make sure that information, if and when it's forthcoming, is made public?
We are writing letters. We have been in a number of meetings, including meetings that the licensed site professional his licensing board. We have been asking for other information like that. We just keep on doing it. We've just been, and we welcome anybody else who has concerns about this to do it, because, you know, my voice has been out there a lot. There are a lot of other people who we would love to hear from who might be concerned about this. But it is an issue, and our understanding is there is 6 million gallons of contaminated water underneath those buildings. That's our understanding. And and the status of that water and where it goes and how it moves is something that we cannot get a clear piece of information on. So we welcome anyone else who would like to put forward a request for that information, who would like to, you know, because it's really important. And there are 6 children who live next door to me, two, and I've got 4 living across the street. I do not want any of them getting sick because of this water. The water table in my backyard goes down 3 feet, and I hit gushing water. And that water is water that is coming from the north to the south. So we know that water is there. We don't know what's in it, and we're very concerned about it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very troubling to hear this, and not for the first time. Wendy, I want to recognize your hand if you'd like to speak to this.
Yeah, thank you. It's just what just occurs to me, Susan, is this is what was going on in Michigan. This is what's going on in Mississippi. And I wonder have you contacted the ACLU? Because this is something, it just occurred to me. I'm just curious because it's a nationwide thing. You're muted, honey. Thank you. Thank you for all you're doing with this. I'm mortified.
We have been contacting a lot of people. The ACLU has not been one of the places that we've contacted, but we have been contacting a variety of folks, and we will continue to do that. And that's a good suggestion, and we will talk to folks about that.
Yeah, I know what you as citizens have had to take on because the town isn't stepping up to do what's right is part of why I'm no longer here. But my realization in listening to you was, oh my God, we're part of this whole problem that's happening all over the country. So how do you tap into the folks that have already been working on this for the last 10 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thank you for all you do. You're amazing.
I want to ask, Jesus, I believe you had a hand up a while ago, but you've withdrawn it. Is there something you would like to bring into this conversation?
No, I mean, I thought, I didn't know that Susan was going to talk, so no.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, this again is a question of, you know, as many hands on deck as possible. Information is critical, and requiring, mandating that, you know, we hear about this and that we get the answers to the questions that Susan was talking about is really critical. You know, it goes well beyond the purview of the Human Rights Commission, but at the same time, it is part of what we do. And, you know, again, the more we can stay on top of these things, stay active, keep our voices out there, I think the better for everyone. Philippe, and then we'll move on. Philippe?
Besides the fact that the bones of our ancestors lie in this ground means that it should be a little bit more sacredly held. But also, most importantly, we have to look at the reality that we're approaching for the future. As prices of food stuff, basic foodstuffs, become more and more expensive, more and more people will seek to either have community gardens or their own gardens, and to create more surplus food here in Western Massachusetts. And you can't do that with ground that is toxic or water.
Correct. I see a hand from Stephanie Duclos. Did you want to speak, Stephanie? Are you with us, Stephanie?
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute.
Okay.
I had a question
Welcome.
for Susan. Would it be helpful if we had our own personal water tested?
I don't know, because I don't know where the flow is. So if it could be, a fool's errand. We really need to have somebody who professionally knows what they're looking at, because, the water we drink is fine. It's this groundwater. And so where the wells are placed, how they are tested, that really requires someone with a lot more skill than any of us individually have. And I'm not sure that someone who is just a general water tester, who is not really dealing with these particular issues, knows that information. So I would say, come spring, we will definitely be doing stuff. I'm hoping that we might be able to get that done earlier, but right now we don't have the funds to have it done.
Okay, thank you. I'm just concerned, I do grow my own food. I'm downstream to it. We're right by the, we have a lot of groundwater that comes up in our backyard. So.
I understand. Yeah. I do too. I totally understand.
Thank you.
Pamela, I believe you had a hand up, and I'd like to recognize you.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here. This is my first time at the Human Rights Commission or committee, and so I'm not clear on your purview, but as a member of the PIP, being involved in this lumped situation, and housing Greenfield, and also having had cancers in the past for myself, would it be appropriate for me to even inquire if we could get a statement from the Human Rights Commission? Is it a committee or commission? I apologize.
We're a commission, yeah.
I thought so. So yeah. If there were a statement from, and the majority of you felt that this really needs urgent attention, I think it would help to move the needle a little bit against what we're talking about and how we're, at almost a standstill. I mean, we've got the DEP, we have the EPA, we've reopened up the situation, and like Susan said, we've been working really hard for months on end to pretty much no avail for now, anyway, it sounds like. So that's my question is, is it something that this particular group could make a statement about public? Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. I would just respond by saying, all of these things directly and indirectly impact all of us, and they are related directly and indirectly to human rights issues. It really becomes something that we can make a statement. We, in terms of action, we are not a legislative body. We cannot necessarily make things happen. That's unfortunate. We are somewhat constrained in terms of what kind of authority and power, if any, we actually have. That said, I think the power to move people through education and information and advocacy are things that we have been trying to do, in this past period of time. And I would invite anyone on the commission who wants to write either a letter to the editor or my turn on this. It needs attention. It needs ongoing pressure and attention. We know that nothing is a one-off. Nothing's going to move if we just pay attention to it once and then don't push beyond that. I think there's a note in the chat to this effect. Kathy has written something. The Environmental Defense Fund maybe is another organization that could be considered. I don't have a specific answer, Pamela, but I would welcome anyone who wants to write on behalf of the commission, or at least of themselves. If it's a commission article, of course, we would all have to agree to it and be willing to put our names as a group and individually. But if an individual writes, it doesn't have to have the imprimatur of the entire commission. Wendy, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'm making my last meeting a big one. I just want to reinforce what Pamela said, and I think what she's asking for is for this commission to say, yes, this is a violation. We've got a concern that this is a violation of the human rights of these neighbors and of the earth. I mean, but I think that what she's asking is for a question and a decision. Can the commission commit to writing something? We've done it in the past. Daniel, you've written a couple of letters for the commission because we've said, yes, we want to do that, and we trusted you to do it. And personally, I think that's a very appropriate stance for the Human Rights Commission to take. So, but what I hear is her asking very specifically, not for individual people to write, but for the Human Rights Commission to say, this is a human rights concern. And we need to stop ignoring that access to nature and clean water and all of that is not a human right. We need to address that. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Let me see if I can further that a little bit and try to move us forward as well, which is to say, is there someone, a commissioner who is galvanized to want to write on behalf of the commission and share it with us so that people can say, yes, we're behind this? Or are, in fact, right here and right now, of those who are gathered, are we behind this as a commission, saying that a statement does need to be made and should be made? I mean, is there any?
I'd like to make a motion that the Human Rights Commission make a statement about what is going on with the Lunt property.
Thank you, Philippe. That does move us forward. Is there someone who'd like to second that as a motion, that we make a statement publicly as a commission? We need a second.
Okay, I'll second it.
Thank you. You can do that, Wendy. That's fabulous. Is there any discussion on that? Or can we bring it to a vote? Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll give it the 7-second rule. So let me ask then, let's bring this to a vote. The issue at hand here is that we make a statement as a commission about the importance of this, as we heard Philippe, and also before that, Wendy and Pamela speak about. Because we are in Zoom, we are going to have to do this as a count off. Yes, Philippe?
I'm surprised that there's so much reluctance in seconding this, and I would love to hear what the opinions are on the commission.
Well, that is part of discussion. So, you know, it is good to speak out. Here's an opportunity to be heard publicly and within our commission. Irene?
Well, I guess I just don't know enough information. Like, is this group making a statement that everyone is entitled to clean, healthy water in a clean environment, or are we speaking specifically to this case? Like, if we're making a general statement that people are entitled to blah, 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 I understand, but I don't know enough about this case to take a stand on it, so that's why I'm quiet. And I just want to comment on individual letters, because recently there was a My Turn written by people from this group, and in it they said they were a part of the Human Rights Commission, and that just felt like it made it feel like it was part of the Human Rights Commission, and that was a difficulty for me. So I think if I'm writing an individual letter, I wouldn't say I'm from the Human Rights Commission, because I think it blurs the role a little, but that's just a side comment.
Okay. Philippe?
There could be a lot of different ways that we go about this. And yes, we could address this situation as specifically and geographically and specific information about the site. Or we can make a more general statement, which, like Irene said, people have the right to, clean water, and then go a little bit further with that and said, we seek here in Greenfield to make every neighborhood and every part of Greenfield safe, clean, and unpolluted. Like, we don't have to say the Lunt property specifically, because what we're saying here for people is it really applies to every place.
I see two more hands. I want to recognize Jesus and then Mackenzie on this issue. Jesus?
Hi. Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, what the people who are part of this public involvement plan are asking for is if the Human Rights Commission can recognize essentially what their demand is, that their original demand anyway, that the mayor's office or that the city hires an independent licensed site professional to deal with the cleanup and with the assessment of the cleanup for the property. Right now, there's a conflict of interest, and that hasn't been addressed by the mayor's office. And that's essentially, or it hasn't been addressed to the satisfaction of the people who are in the public involvement plan. Let's put it that way. So I think really what they're asking for is this commission willing to make a statement in the majority in support of the neighbors who have filed the public involvement plan and have asked for there to be an independent licensed site professional that represents the city rather than the renters of the property who are hoping to become its owners and who do not want to the satisfaction of the neighbors, take responsibility for the cleanup.
Thank you, Jesus.
And thank you so much for clarifying that.
I personally, and I'll recognize Mackenzie in just a minute. I mean, as a citizen and resident of Greenfield, leaving alone the idea that I'm a commissioner, I do want to go on record as supporting the concern, the grave degree of concern around the lack of movement on this issue, without necessarily knowing all of the professional technical specifics. And then I would add, as a commissioner, I'm greatly aggrieved that citizens of the city have done as much as Susan articulated a few minutes ago and are being stymied. And that just feels very, very uncomfortable. I think the idea of writing a letter about the issues that have come up is important. I'd like to see if we, as a commission, just find it very important as an aberration of human rights to have to live in these kinds of circumstances. And I would hope that the 6 or 7 of us are of one mind in thinking that this is a human rights violation, without necessarily getting into any of the technical and specific issues of the Lunt property. But this is a case in point in our community. It's one of many that are happening nationally, and it's affecting us, on many levels. Mackenzie, did you want to speak to this topic?
Yeah, can I get a clarification whether or not the Lunt property is owned by Greenfield or by a private owner?
It is presently owned by the city of Greenfield.
Okay. Thank you. No, I think I strongly support the residents surrounding the Lunt property. It is an environmental injustice, and not only for those living around it, but also I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the Lunt property provides detox for people with addictions, and I think just in that case, it's wrong. It's wrongful to provide services in a building that is suspicious of being harmful. I'd also like to, maybe I can do this on my own, but I'd also like to research about whether or not EPA could get involved in other organizations. I know that there is EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, in each state, but I think the HRC should definitely make a statement in support of Greenfield residents, because we want to mitigate the effects of any environmental harm and to protect people's right to safe and healthy environments.
Thank you, Mackenzie. So we've heard quite a few people speak to this, both commissioners and those in residents and citizens of Greenfield. I'd like to move to what's our next step here, so that we can leave this meeting knowing how we're going to proceed forward. Philippe? Philippe?
A danger to people who are in recovery, dangerous to the residents and neighbors of the area, and preventative of more, a deeper use of the land. I think that it would be wonderful if the people who are closest to this issue and have all the scientific knowledge provide us with some facts and figures and what they would propose to be the letter.
That suggests a collaboration, and I think that that can be very healthy. We can be better educated. We can all be better educated, and I think a better letter on behalf of the city, from the commission, would be enhanced if we did have that information. I like the idea. I'm wondering if maybe Susan or someone who has been working on this in great depth, or perhaps Pamela, would be willing to supply information to us, and then that would help us to pinpoint a letter that we could all get behind.
We'll be
Is that
happy
a
to do
possibility?
that.
Sorry?
We'll be happy to do that.
Okay. I would suggest if you want to send that to me, that would be wonderful, at my email address, which appears on the screen if you see it there. And then I will work with the commission after this meeting to figure out how best to do that while being sensitive to not violating open meeting law. Yes, Philippe, and then Wid.
Sorry, once again, I'm speaking a lot. I think I would like for Mackenzie
muted,
to. Oh, sorry, I'm muted. I would love it if Mackenzie considered writing the letter or being a part of that. She had some great ideas.
I guess that's a
It's
question.
almost
to
a
you,
motion.
And then I'd like to hear from Wid. Mackenzie, do you have a response?
Yes, I'd love to. And I'd like to be able to collaborate everyone's opinions and stances on that as well. But yes, I'd love to.
All right. Well, I will furnish the information when I go to Susan. To you, Mackenzie, I'll furnish that information so that you can maybe have that. And let me go to Wid, and then we're going to move on. Wid?
Well, just a point of order. We had that open motion on the floor. So does Fleet want to rescind that motion since we went in our direction from what the original motion was?
I don't think I made a motion. They were both suggestions.
No, I seconded a motion. I don't remember what it was, but I seconded a motion.
Mm-hmm.
You did. I wrote it down at the end. Philip proposed make a motion that actually make a statement regarding human rights and the one property, and then seconded. But we went in a different direction where we were asking for clarification on people, so that's not really what the motion was.
I cannot understand what you're saying. Your audio is cutting in and out. But I still think that if the commission is going to want to have a letter generated, that motion can still stand. We're just right now considering how it's going to be written and who's going to do it, and how we're going to go about getting the information.
So let me offer a friendly amendment.
So it seems like that would be absolutely, Dan.
Which is that the commission request that Mackenzie write a letter based on information to be provided by Susan Wargaftic, and that Mackenzie, if you would share your draft of a letter with me, and then I can find a way without violating open meeting laws to share that with the commission, and hopefully we can all get on board with that letter. It's a wordy. I apologize for the wordiness of the motion, but it's an idea to just move this thing forward in one piece, and I hope that we can just go ahead with that if people are agreeable to
I
that.
agree with the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
And would like to make a motion to approve the amendment.
Yep. Okay. Do we have a second on the friendly amendment that I just made?
I second.
I second.
Okay, we have seconds and thirds. Okay, and we've already had discussion, but I have to ask for it again. Is there any further discussion on this friendly amendment to the motion? Okay, having heard none, let's just go ahead with a vote. I'll just call people. Philippe, your vote?
Yes.
Yes. Mackenzie, your vote?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Wid, your vote? That's a yes, I think, a thumbs up. Empress, your vote?
Yes.
Yes. Irene, your vote?
Yes.
Wendy, since you're still with us tonight as a voting commissioner, your vote?
I'll abstain.
And I will vote
Though
yes.
my heart is a yes, I'll abstain.
Have you. 6 in favor, 1 abstention. The motion and the friendly amendment to the motion passes. So we will move forward, and the chain of events will be Susan sending information to me, my sending it to Mackenzie, Mackenzie then drafting a letter, sending it back to me, and then I will find an appropriate way to share it out with the commissioners. Okay, let's move ahead. It's I want to note the time, it's 7:37. And I'm going to kind of try to integrate 2 pieces into one here because of time. Item E in part 9 of the agenda speaks to an update on news regarding the police chief. And I want to integrate that as well with new business from Jesus Leyva, a Greenfield resident and constituent, having to do with POST, the Post. And I'm aware that at this point, Police Chief Haigh is with us tonight on this meeting. And so I think first things first, which is to have an update, a public update on where things stand regarding the situation with the police chief at this time. Is there anyone on the commission or anyone in public who can give us an update about where things are presently? Jesus, please. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, forgot.
Okay.
Maybe we should just recognize the chief of police who's on real quickly. But I mean, I'm actually going to drop it down in the chat. I came here primarily to talk about something that was directly in the purview of the Human Rights Commission, mainly the civil rights officer that's assigned to the Human Rights Commission as per the city's charter, which is linked with the specific function of that officer. And I think first it's just a really basic question, which is I understood that Laura Gordon was the liaison and that she's no longer employed with the city. So is there a second person that's going to be the liaison? And obviously, given the scrutiny that Chief Haigh has specifically come under as the result of the verdict, and in general, it might make sense for the chief to specifically have someone designated who is not the chief of police. I mean, you know, with all due respect, you know, to Chief Haigh.
So, Chief, if you would like to speak to that as just a public question. We are right now without a liaison from the GPD. And it would be good for all of us to know what your thinking is on this and how it's going to move forward.
Not a problem. Yeah, Laura was on there. Prior to Laura, it was me, and it has been since 2018. When we had to officially name someone when it came to the state, it was updated in 19, updated again in 20, and then Laura obviously had been with you until she left. Unfortunately, she's a great loss. As of right now, we don't have any volunteers yet for the position. It's not going to be me in person. It will be somebody else. We just haven't got to that point yet of anybody wanting to volunteer. Right now, we're running a little thin with supervisors. I would like to have it be somebody that's on a 3 to 11 type of shift, whether it's a supervisor or an officer, because most meetings obviously occur during that time. But we will be filling it. Hopefully not kind of by my order or by the deputy chief's order, but hopefully somebody will step up and want to fill that. Right? Like I said, right now, sorry, we don't have somebody assigned to it immediately, but we are going through some transition here with some jobs that are internal based on some upcoming retirements. So I don't know if that helps you at all.
I think it's a start. It would be helpful to know if there's I mean, it sounds like it's an open question for you to discern. Do you have a time frame? I mean, would we be anticipating someone within the next couple of months, 6 months? Do you have
I would hope we'd have somebody by next month. I don't think it's going to go that long.
Okay.
We're transitioning right now to a lot of duties are getting moved on November 1st. So hopefully when we know what all those duties are going to look like, that'll be split up amongst supervisors, then one of the supervisors on that shift may very well be your liaison going forward. But I wouldn't anticipate we're going another month without somebody.
Just to follow up, is there any particular criteria? Are there any criteria other than availability that you'll be considering? Is it just based on whoever's available volunteers, or are there other things that you would consider?
I mean, availability is obviously a big one. We typically don't want somebody that doesn't have the availability and I'm just forcing to go. We'd like to have somebody that has an interest to participate. So that's kind of first and foremost. But if not, we'll have a discussion with some folks that we feel may be a better fit for the commission for the role. Hopefully we'll have somebody that is willing to step up. I don't know if it'll be, I would like to see my community resource officers back to full staff. Right now we're only running with one, and we're rotating that shift around drastically. You know, we have a comfort dog coming on for that one individual right now. So that's going to be obviously very time consuming in the beginning. But if we can get back to that second person, and that role is somebody that fits. We don't just take volunteers for that. People, you know, they put in for it. It's a position that has really grown from what it was originally. So I think there's a lot more interest when officers started seeing kind of how this community resource position grew from what it was right in the beginning to what it is now. So in part of those roles, you know, is to be a part of different groups and meetings and reaching out to folks to get different perspectives, because that's what we want, and that's what we want from those officers in particular, and then bring it back here so we can, you know, integrate those ideas here at the station. So for me, a big part of that is getting somebody that really is committed to not only, you know, just the position of being a community resource officer, but that believes in the position and what it can become. And again, I think it had grown, and I think Laura is a massive loss, because Laura did a lot for us as a community, but also as a PD. You know, she was very active out there. Matt Llewellyn, who's in that other position now, who's going to be our comfort dog officer. He's a rock star. He's out there. He's very personable. You know, but he's spread exceptionally thin now, especially without Laura here. So I'm hoping to, you know, obviously we know the budget is where it's at right now. Hopefully we'll have some better news at some point. But those are the positions I think that are most valuable to the police department and the community as far as keeping the engagement open. I'm not blind to the fact that I don't want to be a lightning rod for your organization. I'd like to make sure I have somebody in there that can work well, can bring back ideas, can bring ideas, and keep the communication open, you know, without putting everybody in an awkward position. But I am the chief of police. I'm not going anywhere. And I think that having the right person for you folks is important. So no, I don't want to just flash and throw somebody in there who doesn't want to be there, with all due respect to your organization.
Thank you so much for speaking to that. Are there any other questions while we have Police Chief Haigh on with us this evening that pertain to this or anything related? And Jesus, is there anything follow-up that you'd like to share?
Well, I'd like to let Empress go first.
Okay.
But yes, I do have follow-up questions, specific questions for Haigh, and also follow-up with respect to the agenda item I brought to the commission.
Okay, so Empress first to you, and then to Jesus, and then I see Wendy's hand again.
I'll wait after Jesus and Wendy goes, because Jesus is a guest. So
you're going to defer back to him.
Yes, because he's a guest.
Fair enough.
So and this is, I'm directing my question to Chief Haigh. I wasn't a part of a lot of the conversations that happened in 2016 around the Human Rights Commission with regard to controversy that was brought forward to the commission. I was also not a part of conversations that happened in 2020 around similar issues. And to be honest, a lot of the people who were a part of those conversations did not feel a need to come to this meeting. So I guess I'd just like to ask you in your own words, because I'd like to understand from your perspective, in 2016, when the Human Rights Commission had asked you to, I guess, appoint someone other than Officer McCarthy to the Human Rights Commission, why did you make the statement that it was still your choice to appoint Officer McCarthy to the Human Rights Commission? I just want to understand it from your perspective.
Sure. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't recall exactly how that was. I know he wasn't there for much longer after that because of the issues. Whether his name was still on there, again, we went a period of time where I didn't have anybody going, and I was just the one that was on basically an email service. I have to be honest with you, we didn't have a lot of every meeting having somebody there. It was a different mayor at that point. The process, to be honest with you, with council and commissions was a little different. My time, if I was to be there, I was being requested by the office of the mayor, not necessarily the commissions, to be honest with you. So I'll be honest, I don't remember timelines. I wish I could give them to you better. I don't. I went back in my emails to try to find things that could jog my memory from there. I obviously remember the incident very well. I thought I was pretty outspoken about the fact I didn't find any appreciation in the Confederate flag or the way that the entire situation went. I did meet with that family. I know some people have said I didn't. I did immediately, myself and the deputy chief, and I actually kept in contact with them afterwards for a brief time about some other concerns they had that were not part of the Confederate flag, but it was basically because I developed a little bit of a relationship with them, and then unfortunately, the same media sources that kind of went after the situation turned on them too, unfortunately, which was horrible for all the reasons, and I didn't support that either. As far as investigations, I saw some questions about, sorry, like not moving enough. Some investigations that were done at the time. Then Sergeant McCarthy was in charge of the detective bureau. So there were some investigations around, and he was part of those. It's, we don't have a department of 100 people. We have a department, not anymore, but we had a department of 34. But I wish, and I apologize, Mr. Labia, I don't recall specifically timelines around that. I know that he wasn't part of that commission. After that, I don't have a specific date for you. I apologize. I tried to find it.
I guess I'm going to let Councilor Ricketts go, because I believe she was on the commission at the time.
Well, actually, before I recognize Penny, Wendy is
sorry
for a while. We will get to Penny after Wendy. So please go ahead, Wendy.
Thank you. I'll let Penny go, and thank you for keeping me in the queue.
Okay.
Since Jesus deferred to her. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Ricketts, Penny Ricketts, please go ahead.
This is the most respectful board. Thank you so much. Sorry I'm late. I came from another meeting. So first of all, yes, I was on the Human Rights Commission at the time, and Chief Haigh did go to that family. I will start by saying that I don't believe, I know for a fact that Chief Haigh is not a racist, and that at the time, he and the mayor took care of the incident very quickly. And I was on Human Rights and I was asked about McCarthy at the time, and I felt like instead of just saying, no, I don't want him at those meetings anymore, I said I wanted him to stay. Because it's the Human Rights Commission, and I felt like he did some things so wrong, or that incident was so bad, the best place for him to be is in the Human Rights Commission on a monthly basis. Why turn your back and ignore people after that, when I think it was important that he understand how much the community was hurting, and I know it really tore the community apart, you know, because the flag is bad, and then the whole people have the freedom to, you know, do whatever flag they want. So it was difficult. So I have to say that through that whole thing, nobody even brought up later on, you know, why was McCarthy there? He was there until he wasn't, you know. It was not as a big a deal, and it wasn't anything that Chief Haigh did wrong. In fact, whenever we had a forum on race, or something came up in the schools or whatever, and we needed clarification, we just called the chief, and he would just come to the meetings, or as a member, I would just make an appointment and go to him. So it was always open communication, and it worked really well. But thanks for asking the question and people not making any assumptions. But I had the opportunity to say, I never want to see McCarthy on human rights. And if you Google it, you'll probably find it in the reporter. And I said, no, I wanted him to stay. So that was me.
Thank you, Penny, for sharing your experience of that. And
Could I just add one more thing?
Please go ahead.
So after that, for some of you who do remember, when all those racial pictures went on around me, about me, McCarthy and Chief Haigh, the department, there was a full investigation. A lot went on. I mean, I can remember speaking to the state police for over 4 hours, and everybody was really respectful because those pictures didn't go to places they shouldn't have been, but I had the full support, and it was very scary in the beginning. It was painful. It was really hard to take because it's my own community, but I will have to say this police department as a whole stepped up in a way that made me be able to like say, I'm not moving and I'm not quitting council. I'm not quitting anything, I'm staying. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you.
Thank you. And in response, I see a number of people starting with Wendy, and then from Wendy, we'll go to Empress and then Philippe. So Wendy.
My hand's been up for the last 15 minutes. That's all.
Well, Wendy's been, we put her in this queue first. I'll recognize you then after Wendy. So go ahead, please, Wendy, unless you want to.
Well, you know, first of all, I so appreciate this meeting. I think that, you know, you're really tackling some really important things. And Penny, you know, what you experienced, you might want to put your hand down so that Daniel knows that we're done. But, you know, your experience was extraordinary, and I'm so glad that you felt the support, as you should, of the police department. And that was your experience. So I would just encourage you to say you have not experienced racism rather than you can say for a fact you know that he's not a racist, because other people have experienced, with all due respect, Chief Haigh, they have experienced your behavior through a racist lens. And that's what we're talking about looking at and exploring. Because it's not to say you are a racist, it's saying some of the behavior for some of the people feels racist to them. How do we resolve that? So, and Penny, yes, you said yes a decade ago. I want to go back to who is the liaison? Because while I was on the commission, I think that liaison showed up once or maybe twice, and it was at our request. And what I understood was that the liaison was to show up upon our request. And my concern, because I live fundamentally in the rights of life, the rights of people and the rights of nature, I go to, so where do we go? I've had these senior moments and I lost my train of thought. I will come clean. Thank you, Councilor Ricketts.
All right, well.
Yeah,
Wendy,
thank you. I see that you're ready to respond, Chief Haigh. And I think that's what we're looking at. So what's the role of the police liaison? Because my concern is human rights, especially for police these days, should be a priority. And if we're having trouble having people in the community show up for human rights and people on the police force show up because human rights is important to hold fundamentally, then I would say we've got a really big problem, bigger than we realize. So I'm open to your response. Thank you so much. I know this has been a really trying time.
No, and Wendy, and thank you for even asking that. And again, I'm not here. While I will tell you, I truly in my heart feel I am not a racist. I am also not blind to the fact that there is racism everywhere, and you could commit something without even realizing it. And I understand that, and I appreciate that, and that's why I need folks other than myself to help me understand. And I'm very much willing, and I feel like I demonstrate that throughout my time here in Greenfield, that I've been far more open and outgoing and in the public more than I feel pretty confident saying the last few chiefs. Councilor Ricketts has been around. I'm pretty sure she would agree with me on that one. And as far as the prior administration, I worked for a boss. Sorry, I apologize. Energy efficient lights. I work for a boss as well, and when my marching orders were, I don't go unless I'm told by my boss, I have to obey that as well. I have a little bit different perspective now with who's in the mayor's chair now, and that's why Laura was so involved, and that's what I would like to see going forward with the next person that is working with the Human Rights Commission. Is somebody that will be a part of those. That's why it would be important to me to have somebody on that shift, or at least available to change their shifts, which we don't have a whole lot of that, but someone that could be more available on a regular basis as opposed to being requested. I was invited tonight, and I thank the chair and the commission for allowing me to be here, and I in no way think any part of this is easy for you. I know it's not for me, and I know it's not for our department and our community, but I'm willing to be here and listen and answer and be quiet when you want me to be as well. And I appreciate the fact that you brought that question up, because you are right. There wasn't a whole lot of attendance prior to. We had a year of COVID, which obviously was brutal for the community, epically compared to others. that were coming to work every day. I feel for the people that couldn't make it to their jobs every day. That year and a half was awful. And I know we're going to be struggling with that from this point forward. But I also know that the case that we're talking about, and again, I know what the outcome is, and I don't agree with it. I've been dealing with the case since 2015, and I think if anything, I've listened for every year I've been here, listened and met with different groups in our community and tried to at least avail our department to move forward. And I think we tried, and I think we have. I mean, I think we have a little bit of a grind right now with a lack of personnel and some of the programs that I really feel are very important that we're missing out on. And a lot of that is community-based programs. We're not, we're not locking people up at an epic rate. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go back to that. I don't think that's the way to do things. I've been part of the opioid task force since the day I walked in this building. I'm married to a social worker who believes in the reentry program, and that's what she does. I mean, I've always felt like I've been a part of this community, and I know that in certain lenses right now, I'm not, but I'm not here to quit, but I'm also not here to admit that I'm something I really, truly don't believe I am. But I'm also willing to listen and learn and find out what do we have to do here to gain back some of the civility that we lost, and what was I missing? Tell me what I was missing. I've been more than willing to have anyone come in here, hire. I don't have to be part of it. Bring somebody in. Tell me that our policies are wrong. Tell me that we have flaws. If you pay somebody to come in here and they find nothing, then you wasted your money. There's got to be something here. And even though I truly believe, and I will defend myself all day against what I'm being, accused of at this point, I'm also not naive enough to think that we don't have a potential problem somewhere or potential fixes that we can do prior to having a problem. I came to Greenfield in 2013, and for those of you that knew what our department was and the chaos it was in, and the uncertainty of everything, that was step one. Bring back some public trust. That was like one of the things walking in the door. And I feel that we can take a step forward. Let's bring in, a professional agency. I don't have to be a part of it. I can just be a person that answers questions. I don't want to be a part of who's coming. I don't want to be a part of decisions. I don't want to be a part of anything. Tell me. And if you tell me I'm the problem, I guess I'm the problem, and I'm okay with that.
So Chief, let me first say I so respect and honor and appreciate and believe your intention. I have no question about that. And I will share with you that I have also been in, accusation without any intention. What I recognize is that whether or not it resonates with me, my action caused that sensation and that feeling of oppression and racism in the person that I was dealing with. And that's a hard one for me to own, because I know I'm not racist. I can give you litany, I can tell you whatever. But that doesn't change that my action felt racist to this person. And I think that what we're dealing with in town is that you are not only in a leadership position, and yes, everything that you've done, none of that gets canceled out, because there's no question that you have transformed the relationship of police and community in this town. That doesn't mean that this event hasn't broken trust somewhere. And it's not a question of guilt or innocence. It's a question of how do you continue to lead as a powerful leader? I mean, not for nothing, you guys have the guns. So I think that it's really important to get past this guilt that you are or you aren't, because none of us are or aren't anything. We behave, and our behavior triggers things. But in this instance and at this particular time in our history, with all that's going on and with the insecurity that people are feeling. How do we best address that? And what happens to trust and a sense of safety if people have this outstanding question that you cannot resolve? It's not in your power to resolve it for them.
I'm not disagreeing with you in one iota.
Daniel? Daniel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but disrespect to Wendy, but I know Felipe was next and I was, but it was jumpy around there. I know time is short, so I'm just asking to just stay in upper order.
Yes.
Because I know Felipe's been waiting for a while and I've been waiting.
I know that Wendy jumped the line.
Thank you.
So I do want to go back. The people that I have in order are Philippe, who's been waiting, Empress, and then Jesus. And we'll stay with that for now. Okay, so Philippe, thank you for your patience.
1997 is the answer. No, I'm just kidding. I've been waiting so long, I forget. I was the chair of the Human Rights Commission back then. And although the Human Rights Commission did not want Dan McCarthy to be their liaison, I also objected to that because I felt that a person who is being surrounded by certain racist acts by his family or by his son who hung the flag, or even he even may harbor some of those ideas himself. But ideas are ideas, and ideas can be broken or made. And it has always been my ambition to anyone who is on the fence about racism, fascism, or any other kind of harmful thing to human beings, that we talk to them and that we keep them close and that we engage them in these in activities about social justice to give them that education. When that happened, I wrote an article about the voting situation in Alabama, the difference between the voting tallies during Reconstruction and post-Reconstruction, and as a lesson that for mostly working class people especially, that racism is our enemy as well, and that I can talk to people about things like that and transform them. What did actually happen, and I remember, Chief, is we requested that Dan McCarthy not be our liaison and that we have a new liaison. And basically Dan was asked not to be there, and the chief offered to just be a contact in case we need any advice or help, but did not want to be the actual official liaison. So the liaison position ended there, and then I believe after I left the Human Rights Commission it came back. But I just wanted to set the record straight and to also convince people like my friend John Langren, who runs Rock Against Racism, and when he did that in England, he specifically targeted conservative-minded or racist or fascist skinheads, because he knew that those people were looking for answers to something that was wrong in this society, wrong in this system, and they just simply were getting the wrong information, you know. I remember you, Robbie, when you first came in and did a press conference. That was one of my first news stories that I did in 2013. So I've watched this process, and it was very shocking to me, and I became very concerned when I heard the results from the verdict and the trial and the court case. And what it warranted in me was just, I need to know more about this. I need to know more about what's going on, and I think we need to have our police chief make some comments for the media, you know, to give the full dimension of everybody's side and everybody's concerns and everybody's point of view, you know. And I think the Human Rights Commission is a great place for doing that, because that's exactly what human rights are. Is creating a forum where all of our ideas and all of our views are welcome and can be also the people who have those views can learn how it affects other people. And that's just all I wanted to say, but I'm glad I had a chance to say something. Those are my personal experiences working with the police department, and those are my personal beliefs, is that people who are on the fence need our support. They need our support to face the racism in their community. They need our support to face the bigotry in their own families. They need our support and strength to fight against or object to something they haven't had to object or fight against before. And that's that.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll resist comment since there's still a back line. Empress, you're next, and then Jesus. Thank you, Philippe.
Yes, okay. I'm gonna try to keep it short because I knew what I wanted to say before now, but there was a statement that was made to Councilor Ricketts that I didn't too much like, that I'm gonna come back to. But first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for coming, Chief Haigh. I believe I seen Acting Chief Gordon was here, and I also seen Sergeant Green. So I thank you three so much for coming to this meeting so much. I have actually, I am happy to say that I have developed a great, partnership and friendship with those three individuals right there. What was said is, as far as when Councilor Ricketts said that she knows for a fact that Chief Haigh is not a racist, the comeback statement to her statement was, well, how can you say he's not? That's that negativity I was talking about. How can somebody tell somebody that is what you said? What you said, and I will repeat what you said.
You're out of order. Wendy, you're out of order. I'm sorry.
Let her speak, and then you can have a response in order. Okay? Go ahead.
Thank you. Because
Wendy will have her response.
Thank you. Councilor Ricketts says that she knows that Chief Haigh is not racist. You said, well, he's not. That is the wrong approach. That's the wrong attitude. And just like Chief Haigh says, and he should not have bowed down and admit and have to make him look like a racist to nobody if he himself knows he's not, just to make anybody else happy. He's his own person. So why should he have to answer to anybody? If he acknowledges that a wrong was done and he's doing what he's supposed to do as the chief of police, trying to bring this community back together, so why can't we as a community support him? I mean, it's just gotten so much to the point right now. I mean, that the negativity is just disgusting. Okay, and like I said, this was the statement that I was going to make. But just hearing how that statement was made in response to what Councilor Ricketts said of how she views Chief Haigh, that struck a chord with me. And yes, you did say it. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, Jesus and Philippe and Whit, I'm going to ask if Wendy can have a response before you go on so we can move this forward. Jesus, are you amenable to having?
Sure. But I do want to just quickly say, I did want to get back to the actual agenda item that was brought up. Oh, shoot, lots of feedback.
There's a lot of feedback, yeah. Can everyone else please mute themselves except for who's speaking? So, okay, so I'm going to go back to Wendy first, and then to Jesus and Whit. And I do want to note that we're at 8:15. Our normal ending time is 8 o'clock, but this seems to be a very critical discussion, so I hope we can all agree to stay on.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that my intention was to honor and respect Penny's experience. And what I said was that label is a different label, and that doesn't apply necessarily across the board, that she could speak to her experience. And I understand that might have been a trigger for Empress, and I am sorry that it triggered her, but I stand by what I said, that other people have had other experiences of Chief Haigh that would not make the same comment. And so we need to have equal voice and honor equal voice. That's all. I wanted to clarify. And as I said to Chief Haigh, I understand, and I can't even imagine what this has been for you. And I do not color it with intention. But we live in a world of misunderstandings, and how do we walk with that when we're especially when we're in powerful leadership positions? So that's my only comment. I thank you for all of your service. I know it has not been easy. That's all. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. I'm going to move now, as I promised, to Jesus and Wid, and then Empress, I see a hand from you as well. So we'll go in that order. Jesus?
Sure, I appreciate that. Again, I dropped the actual charter language into the chat if people can look at it at some other time so that there's clarification on that, and so there isn't a question about what that role is and why the city council created that role. But I'm also going to drop something else into the chat, which was originally a part of the meeting agenda that I had originally brought forward to Daniel. And I do thank Daniel for, making an invite to Chief Haigh, because I think it is important that if someone is accused of something or, wait, not in the chat? Oh, hold on. All right, something got messed up. Let's try that again.
Point of order.
Just a point of order.
Do not use the chat.
Wait, why not?
Because it makes it a legal meeting for the human rights. Because some people might come on with a phone, they can't read the chat. No, you never use the chat in any public meeting.
It's the way to conform to open meeting regulations.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, although I've been to a post-commission meeting and they definitely use the chat.
Okay.
But okay, not really what I want to argue about. In fact, I'm not really looking to argue in a sense. But there was a verdict. The verdict found in favor of the plaintiff against the city, if you want to call it that. I know that it's civil and not criminal, but de facto, this verdict is against the city. But really, for me as an individual, and I actually am going to set aside a lot of the baggage of what other people had told me about wanting to speak about at this meeting, because that gets really complicated. And I kind of just wish people would express what I'm going to speak for myself at this point. So first, I want to speak to my experiences with the police department, period. My experiences with the police department have been overwhelmingly positive. I have had a need to call them on more than one occasion. I always received a response. That response was always good, necessary, and, when I first heard that the city council had voted to defund the police department by $400,000, my initial concern was, what is that going to do for people like me who have to call the police department because they need something? So I immediately contacted one of the people who I know who was involved in issues regarding, the police department, who was part of those conversations and who had been campaigning for that. And then she shared with me a lot of information, documents, information from the court records, documents from public records requests from the police department. And it became really apparent that there was a reason, lots of real reasons why people were pushing for the budget cuts, and then ultimately why some councilors voted in favor of them. And some of those things have nothing to do with the actual verdict. They have to do with the pieces of document that were actually used to substantiate the verdict. They are questions of allegations and documented instances of misconduct of 2 to 3 very specific officers. And in question is, Chief Haigh's handling of those specific issues. And that is the subject of a complaint that I signed along with 100 other residents to the State Post Commission, and also included counselors as well. And, I could actually just speak to some of those specific things, since I can't actually put them in the chat, and since I can't put the link to the petition on the chat. And I'd be happy to, because I don't think anybody should be out of the loop as to why people are concerned. I think one of the issues was about an officer who had accidentally, killed someone in a motor vehicle accident. And while I understand that, like, the police department followed, I guess, whatever rules were set up as to how they retained him while he was on trial for that specific incident, there was documentation, for many years in the 90s of that officer being an unsafe driver. And that should have been part of the screening process for the police department in determining whether to hire this person in the first place, where their primary job is going to be driving around the city. That's one. A different issue is, disparate treatment of civilians versus officers. I saw documents where, there was a person who had filed a public safety commission complaint regarding, her arrest over an alleged, drinking under the influence allegation, and the handling of it compared with the department's same handling of the exact same allegations against an officer are entirely different. That's part of the subject of the post-complaint as well. At issue is, and this was something that was reported in local media sources, but also circulated by counselors and talked about in the public at large, is the police department's handling of the Bay State Hospital nurses strike and their role and involvement in it, which there are people in this community who believe and feel that the police department's involvement in that strike was illegal and a violation of federal labor laws. These are just some of the things that are listed and detailed with documented sources in the post-complaint. And again, I do not have a lot of firsthand details of these things. I was not a part of these initial conversations, but to the fact that, that these things are pretty well documented, I felt confident enough to actually sign the petition. And there is a lot of documentation. There is a lot of documentation about what happened. And I don't want to judge, Chief Haigh, sitting here, in front of me as a person that I don't really know that well. I've had one conversation with him in the past, when I had to call the police department and when I had to specifically speak to Chief Haigh because of the circumstances that I was dealing with. And while I didn't like the outcome, he was respectful, he was professional, and he did what was supposed to be done within that given situation. However, for all of these other situations that are well documented, I think there are very large open questions. I was hoping that the city would move forward with the audit concerning the police department, but, so many city councilors and so many people in the community expressed that they did not feel comfortable with the mayor being the person contracted to carry out the audit. And, councilors wanted to be able to appoint members to the task force that was going to follow up that audit. And there was so much grief over the idea that the mayor would be in control of that process because many people do not trust the mayor at this point for a variety of reasons that I'm not going to get into. So, I mean, that's, to the point that I hope that audit is still going to happen, and that I am glad to hear that the chief is willing to comply with it and understands the importance of it and understands the importance of having the confidence in the community. It's in the mayor's hands at this point. I made a suggestion to Councilor Bullock, who has been, acting as sort of, conversing with the mayor's office over the audit and the task force, that if the question is, the mayor's, role in handling the audit or task force, that, that the mayor's office should call the state attorney general's office, municipal law division, and ask the state to produce a workaround so that councilors can be directly in charge of the audit and task force appointments. And that's a conversation that should happen if councilors, and the public want to have control over the appointments and the task force. But the thing is, these things are stuck. They're stuck by the mayor, and it's not moving anywhere. And in the meantime, no disrespect to you, Chief Haigh, but when you were reappointed before that, the community was ready to move forward with what was happening. I had spoken with the Public Safety Commission chair. They were supportive of, exploring alternatives to public safety, like, Crest. I've had very good conversations with, Bill Gordon. He wanted to, meet with, the people, involved in campaigning about this. Councilors were on board with moving forward with this. And then the mayor made a decision to reappoint you. That decision was made without building consensus from city councilors. It was made without, I'm sure city councilors would have liked to weigh in and put some conditions on it in light of the verdict. And that there's a lot of missing pieces here, that a lot of it comes from the mayor's office, but some of it is just historical. And there are, in fact, criminal allegations that date back to before you being a police chief of currently serving officers. And in light of the way that internal investigations have been handled, people have active questions about whether these are active safety issues for people interacting with those specific officers. And I think that's all I have to say. Again, it's in the post, document. I can send you a copy, Chief Haigh. I can send it to any councilors. I can send it to commission members. I sent it to Daniel, who I believe had sent it to each of the commission members. But it's all there. It's all documented. It's linked with news articles, court documents, Public Safety Commission, public records requests, police department public records requests. Everybody should be, innocent until proven guilty, but to the extent that, is true, we have a lot of questions and we don't have any answers to any of them.
Thank you.
With all due respect, you're missing a whole lot of it too, and so is the group that put it together. So I would recommend maybe some more public records requests so that you can get the whole story.
We are doing that.
Okay.
No, I'm aware. I'm not being sarcastic. I think you need to do more. Whoever's looking for the information needs to put all the information together, and I'm okay with it. Let the information out there.
I can appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. I mean, we're not trying to resolve anything right here and now, and that's beyond the purview of our commission, but to give people an opportunity to speak. And I am glad that the chief is here, as has been spoken. And I've had some good back and forth, and I think that's highly appropriate. But I want other people to speak. I don't think this is about, me and my role. I think it's about people having things to share and for them to be heard in a governance entity. So Wid, and then I see Councilor Ricketts and Carolyn Bruno.
Councilor Ricketts and Carolyn Bruno.
Wid, there's some feedback that people have been thinking when you speak. There's some feedback.
Is everybody unmuted? Is everybody muted who is not speaking?
If everyone could mute. And I will mute also.
Can you hear me now? So the original statement that caused some of the controversy was racist behavior is different from I am not racist. And then we talked about that as the conversation went on. But that was what was said by Wendy, that racist behavior is different from I am not a racist. I just wanted to mention, can you still hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. So I just wanted to mention that prior to the pandemic, the quarterly Department of Mental Health community meeting happened in the Franklin site. And that included several police officers. Every quarter would come in and talk about community concerns regarding mental health issues and the opioid issues. And so the police are very involved. And for all of us who have been to the mental health fair in the last several years, the police are there. Officer Gordon was there. Both Officer Gordons were there with the dogs, doing interface. So a lot of the police work goes without notice. We don't pay attention to the regular, everyday police work. We only pay attention to the police work that creates the headlines. It creates the controversy. And we can't change the past now. The past is done. There's nothing we can do about the past. What we want to do is, what can we do for the future? We've heard a lot of conversation tonight about that and where the future will take us. And that's what we need to focus on, and how we can best get there as a group community. And that's what we have to focus on as we move forward. We all have different opinions. We all have our concerns. They're all legitimate. But for some of us, our hands are tied. There's not a lot we can do except raise our concerns. But, the powers that be are the powers that be. And if that doesn't change, we just move forward with what we have. Thank you.
You're muted, Daniel.
You did. I'm sorry. Okay. Councilor Ricketts and then Carolyn Bruno.
Okay, I'll be really quick. I just want to thank Empress very much for stepping up and saying, what she did. Because when I got done speaking and then the next speaker did that, it was so hard. I just felt so immediately shut down. And I went through it at a committee chairs meeting recently as well, when I, stated my truth, stated what I believed in. And the attack back at me was like, what are you scared of? Why can't you do this? And I'm so glad that there was a woman of color who could speak up and say something. It shouldn't have to be that way, but I'm really grateful. So I just wanted to point out that I appreciated you letting me have a voice. And this is everything is difficult, actually. But we're all here and we're trying. So Daniel, thank you so much for this commission and everything that you're going to try to do. I'm going to try to come in and listen as much as possible. Just have so many meetings, and I want to thank Chief Haigh, and I know that his door is open and people can make appointments to talk about some of this, and it won't all happen just on human rights Zoom meetings, but I just want to thank everybody who's here tonight, who's trying. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Penny. And I just want to say, I know Carolyn's next, and I'll be looking for other people. I know Wendy's up, but if there's anyone who's not spoken after Carolyn, I want to give them an opportunity as well. But I do believe that the time has long since come for the different commissions and committees in town to be working together collaboratively. And that includes the Human Rights Commission, along with both the school committee, the Disabilities Commission, and also the City Council. I think we have been in separate bailiwicks for way too long, and our work is overlapping, and it's a necessity. It's not an option. So I appreciate your being here, knowing that you just came from another meeting, and also Councilor DeSorger as well. I would wish that our meetings had more folks here, but I know that people are really drawn and exhausted by the stretch and the stress of all the meetings that we're in. Okay, so Carolyn Bruno, you're next. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be part of this conversation, and thank you for hosting it, the Human Rights Commission. I feel like there's been two threads going through this whole conversation, and I want to focus mostly on the one that is looking at racism as an institutional framework, something that runs through departments, that runs through the institution of policing. And I think at this moment, talking a little bit less about personal experience is an opportunity to look at some ways to address well-documented wrongdoings. And it's not like we're at the beginning of that process. The entire court case was a very long process of understanding a very large amount of wrongdoing. And I think the view of that as the first instance of figuring out that there's something wrong in the police department is surprising to me. So I'm just hoping that the outcome of that, which came out in May, is an opportunity to act in accordance with it. And rather than say, well, we need to be starting our investigation now. There's been an investigation. There's been a lot of work done, and it was revealed to the public a lot more because of that outcome, but it's been clear to a lot of people for a long time. So because of these clearly documented and well discussed through this trial, it seems that there's an opportunity to actually take action now rather than just begin another investigation. So that's what I think a lot of people have been looking for. I think in response to wanting to find out more information, there is an option that is free, which is through the Post Commission, and they have been looking into misconduct in the Greenfield Police Department. And so that's an opportunity for us to see what else comes out. But also that's not one process that's extremely transparent to the community. And I agree with Chief Haigh that we should have opportunity to see documentation. And so it would make sense for the city to release to the public at no cost internal affairs investigations at the Greenfield Police Department, or at least the final reports of those investigations, because it's been found that some current officers have a number of complaints against them, and those complaints could be, which are already part of the public record, could be available for no cost, because there have been some public records requests that have come back with a very high price tag. So an opportunity for that transparency to come out would be something that could move forward, and that doesn't necessarily have to come through an audit, and which has been termed independent. It also would be through an RFP by the city, by the mayor, and that puts a different lens on how independent it possibly can be. And so I think while a conversation here tonight has gone through a lot of things, I'm appreciating thinking about this in a structural way and looking at what's already been revealed and some simple ways to reveal more at no cost to the city. Thank you.
The investigations have to go to Post. So when there's internal investigations, Post gets the investigation and the outcome. So they'll continue to go there. We've complied with Post right from the start when we had to submit everything to them already, and we will continue to do that. So they'll have those for you.
You're muted, Daniel.
Thank you. I muted myself. Before you speak, Wendy, I just want to see if there's anyone who has not spoken this evening and would like the opportunity, because we're coming on 8:40 p.m. and I just want to make sure that anyone who wishes to speak has the opportunity. So is there anyone else who would want to put up a hand? I see one person. So Wendy, I'm going to ask for patience on your part and allowing other people to speak.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Peg Hall, if you would go ahead, please.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to an earlier comment that I believe it was Philippe made that said that Chief Haigh should make more comments to the media. And I wanted to mention one, if I can read from it, because I think I pulled it up and of course have misplaced it. Nuance in the press is, shall we say, challenging to control. But Chief Fewer quoted, if I can pull this back up, excuse me, I thought I had it right here. Oh, I did want to get this exact. I'm sorry. I pulled it up and I'm not finding it now, but you were quoted as saying that you do not believe any of the things you were accused of. You did go on to say that there's training, that, you know, so forth. If I can find that later, I will still quote from it. But I would suggest that that's not the sort of comment that any public relations firm working on damage control would suggest that you say, because there was, you may have been responding to a statement like, such as, I'm making this up, such as, are you a racist? But what you said was, I don't believe the things I am accused of. And what the public is going to read is those are not just things you were accused of, those are things you were just found guilty of by a jury. You are still entitled to proclaim your innocence, but that doesn't help in the public perception when what you should be stating to the press and to the public is the things that you will be working on improving. So I think that going forward, it would make more sense to focus on what changes can be made and less defense of, I didn't do anything wrong. I think it would be a little more humility and discussion of things can always be done better, and here's the kinds of things we have in mind would be more helpful.
If I could respond to that.
Yes, please go ahead.
I appreciate you twisting my words there, which I wish you had the real quote for. I didn't say that there isn't fixes. I think I've been pretty clear about that the whole time. I also didn't say that I am not guilty, because I'm guilty wasn't the finding from the jury either. It was a responsibility finding. And I denied that right from the start, and I have to believe that. And I don't believe I had a fair trial. I do not believe that the outcome was appropriate. Now, did things come to light that we can fix going forward? 100%. I've never denied that. I didn't deny this before. I believe that we can fix things. But if I'm going to sit here and tell you that I truly believe I did something wrong and this is what I'm going to do to fix what I did, I can't do that for you. I apologize. What I can do is listen and continue to do what I was doing before and listen to the people that I can learn from. Then I'll do that. And you are right. I don't know what the context of the conversation is. The press likes to give me one snippet that's probably taken out of context half the time. I can't control that. All I can tell you is I firmly believe that what the responsibilities were at the end of that trial were not correct. That's why I will be going to the appellate court, because I believe that. If I didn't believe that, then I'd be telling you that I've been lying this whole time, and I just wasn't. So thank you though for your opinion. I appreciate it.
If I may, I have the exact quote from the paper. And again, I emphasize this is how the paper quoted you. And I know that in dealing with the press, that's not always exact. What it said was, Haigh emphasized that he was sorry for what has transpired, but quote, in my heart of hearts, I don't believe at all what I'm being accused of. And that was the phrase that I focused on. He said, he acknowledged the difference between implicit and explicit bias and said the department has trainings that aim to address those biases. Quote, I don't deny that fixes have to be made. There's an ellipsis in there, unquote, he said. That was my point.
Okay. Chief, do you wish to make a response to that, or shall I go ahead with Wendy and then Pamela Goodwin?
Nope. If it was read in the paper, I'm sure it's read just how it was. I'm good with that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Wendy, and then I see Pamela and Jesus, and then we'll try to figure out if we want to close this meeting since it's coming close to 9 o'clock, but Wendy, you're up.
Thank you. And so Penny, I'm glad to see that you're back. And to both you and Empress, I want to say my intention was never to do harm. What I felt a need to do was to also voice the voice of people that are not here, that have had a different experience. And I don't know how we get through holding different points of view if we can't, we get stung. It was, I never said that I didn't honor your experience and that I wasn't glad that you had a good experience and that it wasn't a racist experience. And I've also, because of who I am and what this is, I needed to also voice that other people have felt very differently and would frame it very differently. And I would also say to them, you can't say he's a racist. You can say you've had experience that felt racist to you. Because I think it's important not to define who people are. So this, again, Chief, this is another example of I am showing up with the best of my intentions, as I trust you are. And yet, because of where we are, I am seen and viewed in a certain way. The difference is I don't have a leadership position that the entire community is dependent on. So I don't know what the answer is, but that to me is more of the issue, not whether or not you're quote unquote guilty. The fact is, people are experiencing it that way, and how do we heal that? And I don't know how you heal that maintaining a leadership position that you have, with all due respect. And Empress and Penny, with all due respect to what you both stand for and what you are voicing. And please know that I am doing the best I can do, as I believe we all are. And thank you for letting me know that you were hurt by my words. And maybe we can find a way that I could speak my truth where it didn't hurt you, or where we could explore where that truth lies. And maybe that's part of what this commission can do, is help get these dialogues going that are true and authentic and raw, so that we can move on and create the community we want to create. That's it. Thank you, Daniel. That's hopefully the last thing I say.
We'll keep coming back to you as long as we're in session, Wendy, don't worry. Pamela Goodwin and then Jesus.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I just want to echo the last 2 or 3 people that have spoken regarding the Greenfield recorder. And those of you who have heard my public comments, I've several times say it's very biased. And when I sift through the entire city council meeting, and then I would read Mary Burns or somebody else's viewpoint, some very serious things that I thought should have been reported were not there. So I think that's kind of dangerous. And I wanted to say, in conjunction with that, I mean, we've all heard, people saying things that they don't need to say on social media or even in the recorder, and they're gonna do what they want to do as far as I'm concerned. And I'm only wanting to state that I bought a paper recently because I did discontinue my subscription. But there is a forum coming up on October 26th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. on a Wednesday. And it's a chance to talk to this guy that's the publisher and 3 editors. I had left a message for Dan Crowley to call me, and he never took the time to do that before I decided to discontinue my subscription. So they're asking for people to sign up and get together and go to this forum and speak directly with them. They are the ones who are, editing out or adding in or have a slant. I have a high regard of respect for Mary Burns' hard work. And I know she's been in a lot of places where I've been personally. So I just want to call that to people's attention, because I get the whole truth if I sit there all night long, or I come back and I watch the rest of it until midnight on city council. And then I really know what's going on instead of just trying to get somebody's edited version. And I do know they have a limited amount of space in a newspaper. So thank you for listening to me one last time, and I do think this has been a very, very healthy discussion. I don't know how to continue the healing and moving forward for the whole entire city, because this is a handful of people here expressing all of their concerns. So thank you so much for having us comment all through the night.
Thank you, Pamela. I appreciate your inputs. And we're going to move to Jesus, and then I'll call for any last comments before we potentially close the meeting. So Jesus, you're on.
Okay, I'm just going to respect people's time and just be really brief. This is primarily going to be directed towards Chief Haigh. Again, when I first heard about the verdict and the $400,000 that was being removed from the police department, my initial concerns were, where does that leave public safety? I've attended public safety commission meetings where, Gordon talks about, in light of the cuts, how Deputy Chief Gordon talked about, in light of the cuts, how there was going to be delays in response times, and that there already had been in the month of June. There was 19 different calls that had, I guess, a 10 or 20 minute delayed response time because you were at 3 or 2 two-man cruisers instead of 4 one-man cruisers. And I understand that. That's a logistical thing that I think we should all be concerned about if we have an expectation of the police department to respond to those calls, the ones that people are actually making into the police department. I understand from, having actually been to the police station and looking at the external conditions of the police station, that there are actually safety issues. I wonder if, the building department, if the external, factors of the police department meet the, building department safety requirements. And that's a funding issue, clearly, and when we just take away money from the police department, I wonder where that leaves us. But we got there because of very specific things that people were concerned about that we don't see being addressed. And with regard to the post complaint and with regard to, yes, the post commission is relatively new. 2020 is when they were established. I know you have sent them documents as a requirement for recertification, but there are things that happened in the past, and I know that a lot of people don't seem to like that idea, that need to be addressed because there are people still serving with the police department in the present, whom there are people in the community who feel may be in active danger to them. I am not one of those people because that hasn't been my experience, but there are really serious criminal allegations in the records of the police department, versus very specific officers that predate post-commission. And based on what was revealed throughout the trial, there is a question of whether these criminal allegations were truly independently investigated. And that is concerning. And that is where we're at. And that is why people want the audit. That is why people are making the post complaints. I honestly don't know what the answer is to the question of whether those allegations are true or not. But there's enough information to suggest that we should be asking the question for someone to investigate it. And that's all I have to say left. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it. And I understand that this is a really awkward position for you as the chief of police and, all of the things that are happening. I don't know that any of this directly involves you, except for in your handling of the specific internal investigations. And I think that's where the question is. With regard to you, with regard to the other officers, they're pretty clear. They're spelled out in that post complaint.
Thank you, Jesus. And Police Chief, if you have responses to some of these things that are being said, please know that we will take the time to hear you as well. I see two more hands, Philippe and then Wid. And then I'll ask if there's any other comment, and we may move toward a motion to adjourn at that point. Okay, Philippe?
Great. Motion to adjourn sounds really good. I just want to point out that June 2020, it showed that the police in all over the country needed to have a transformation occur in the way that they do things and to entertain new and creative ideas. It was surprising me to see a budget cut with that on the table, because that type of thing takes money. You need more people, not less. You need all kinds of different people for different problems. And I just simply wanted to say that because I think we're looking at the brutality in our society and making police solely responsible when it is a system that they've been evolved into and taught to protect that is at the fault of a lot of these things. And so as much as we want to transform police departments, I don't think we'll be able to do as much until we transform our economic and social and political way of doing things. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippe. Wid, please.
Wid. I just want to thank everybody who was participating, thank everybody who contributed to the conversation. Rights Commission, we're usually by ourselves. And even when we're among ourselves, it's still hard work. There's difficult conversations, there's raw emotions, but this is how we learn. This is how we move forward. We listen, we hear, we make mistakes, and we get better. And that's what the work is all about. All we can do is get better. We can't change what's happened before. All we can do is get better. And we deal cards that are dealt with us, and we move forward with that. And I appreciate everyone who was here tonight, and I thank everybody who was here tonight.
If I could, I just want to thank you for inviting me tonight. I appreciate you all for your independent, points of view as well as opinions, and I have respect for those. Something was said and about what you do or don't do, I guess, to move forward. And I guess for me, I can't quit. I feel like I have a lot to learn, but I have a lot of good to do. And I look at the folks that we have here that work here, and yeah, there's things in the past, but they're all there. They're out there. Everybody knows them. Those went to post too, but we learn from them and we try to make sure that they don't happen again. Will I go into specifics about a lot of these? No, of course not. I respect the folks that work for me, with me, I should say. They don't really work for me. They work for you. I just get to work with them every day. So I just feel, honestly, if I quit, that would be not even being part of the solution. And I just can't do that. I have a family myself, regardless of what people think. I have a wife and a 7-year-old that are part of this community, that work in this community. And quitting on them too wouldn't be right either. I've had parents that have cried over this, sisters that have cried over this. They know me. We have a lot of honest conversations, and people, I'll be honest with you, unless you come talk to me, you really don't know me. I appreciate Empress coming in, sitting down with me. I loved her words at the city council meeting. I felt like they unfortunately weren't taken to heart as much as I did when I listened, because she came and saw me and I got to have a conversation with her, a real conversation. Penny, we've known each other for decades. And Penny's always been one that's been real truthful with me, and I've always appreciated her guidance. And Irene, I wish you were still with the CAC, because I've known you forever in the work that you've done in this community. So, and Philippe, obviously, we met because I was probably the only chief that would go on TV for you back in the day. But I appreciate everybody, and I'm sure I'm missing some of you, but thank you again for just allowing me to be here. The folks that I work with, I love them to death, and I do love this community, and I am willing to put myself out there and take the shots, but also hopefully be allowed to participate as well. So thank you again, folks.
Daniel, you're muted.
My apologies. I'm wanting to make sure that, anyone who wants to speak has that opportunity. I see Irene's hand, and I think that will be the final call before I call for adjournment and have some final points I'd like to make. So Irene, please go ahead.
It's really just to thank everyone that came tonight and had such an open conversation and difficult conversation. And I just really appreciate that people could sit here and do that. So thank you to everyone that did.
Thank you. So in closing, I just want to say that, this is what we do as a Human Rights Commission. We are learning. We've heard that. We are learning process. We're learning relationships. We're learning policy and protocol. But we're trying to be human, and we're trying to defend and respond and react and think and feel and respect, and it's this kind of opportunity where people can speak their truths, they can speak truth to power, and they can be heard, and they hopefully can be respected. This is not easy work. We all have our trigger points, and we all can improve. And, in whatever level we come in as citizens and wherever we are sitting in this community, we need people to support our efforts. And tonight has been proof of the fact that this is a community governance entity and process. It's staggeringly challenging to do this with 6 commissioners. We are 1 above the quorum after tonight's meeting. People may know that we've had to cancel 2 out of our last 3 meetings due to a lack of quorum. I worry constantly about this. Aaron shared earlier that we've been putting out repeated calls to find more interested citizens in Greenfield to serve with us. To serve, the primary criteria is 2 things, I think: heart and listening. And without that, we go nowhere.
And Daniel, all due respect, but I think we should also put a really good effort out into getting as many commissioners out to that movie theater on the 26th and getting to reach into the public, reach into the hearts and minds of the people who are coming to that film, and see if we can get some more commissioners on board.
I appreciate that. The correct date is the 27th, Thursday, not the 26th.
Yes.
And that's okay. That's
Yes.
fine. Just want to get the right information out there. Our contact points are few and far between. And so, I just want to say thank you all for coming. 3 hours is a long meeting, especially one with this level of raw intensity. But it's proof that people can listen and can hear and can work through and walk through the disagreements and the challenges that we have respectfully. That's been something I've been hammering on for years as a commissioner, and will continue to write about. That without respect and without listening, we are not fulfilling our role as human beings as well as we could. Anyway, I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
From one of the commissioners.
I second it.
All right, well, that was pretty quick. Let me just do roll call so that we can bring this to closure. Irene, how do you vote?
Yes, I totally agree. Yes.
Thank you. Empress? As far
Yes.
as adjournment?
Yes.
Wid? As far as adjournment, Wid?
Talk about it.
I'm sorry, I could not hear. There was a lot of interference there, Wid. I'm sorry that I could not understand you. Do you want to try again? Okay, you're silenced. Let's see, who else do we have? Wendy, you're still on commission for a few more minutes. How will you vote?
Sure. I'll say yes, and if you gave a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that could count as your vote, but I go with aye.
Okay.
Good work, everybody.
All right, then I will vote also to adjourn our meeting. Our next meeting is on Monday, November 14th. We will hope that many of you will show up again and bring your friends and colleagues and neighbors. Thank you, and I declare this meeting is now adjourned at 9:04 p.m. on October 17th. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.